name is not important. What is important is what I'm going to do. I just fucking hate this world and these human worms feasting on its carcass. My whole life is just cold, bitter hatred. And I always wanted to die violently. This is the time of vengeance, and no life is worth saving. And I will put in the grave as many as I can. It's time for me to kill. And it's time for me to die.
Hi, my name is Hannah Young, and for my controversial video game, I chose the game Hatred. I looked at a couple different sources for possible controversial games, and Hatred was the one I decided on ultimately due to its cheap price on Steam, and I was also interested in it after watching the trailer. Hatred was developed by Destructive Creations and released in early June on Microsoft Windows. The game is based around an antagonist, and the antagonist is described as a misanthropic sociopath. And I looked up with what misanthropic means, and it means you just have a general dislike for all of humanity. You're not racist, you're not, discriminatory, you just genuinely don't like any humans. And then sociopath, of course, means you are void of emotions, remorse, sympathy. And it is important to note that they refer to the character throughout as an antagonist, not a protagonist, which we're used to usually seeing in video games. The game Hatred was intended to be different than many other games that have been on the market at that time. So games with bright colors and soundtracks, it was intended to be the opposite of that. And it was also intended to be a, quote, anti-social justice game. So they intended to kind of offend people. And the game was first developed in Poland, and the player dialogue was written by Her Warkramer and was also the vocalist for a Polish death metal band called Infernal War. And one of his songs, Particular Hatred, also appears during the video game. In January 2015, Hatred was given an adults-only rating by the ESRB. Mike Splechka of GameZone questioned the timing of the game and how it could be considered the next scapegoat in a culture that already attributed school shootings to violent video games. In Poland, where the game was developed, gun control rules are very different. In order to obtain a firearm in Poland, you must have a background check, spotless criminal record, you need to pass psychological tests, and you also need to state a valid reason about why you need the gun in the first place. I was interested in looking at Poland's gun laws after I discovered that the game was created in Poland, yet it takes place in New York City, so I was a little bit curious about that. I looked at the website on Destructive Creation with the description of the game, and one of the paragraphs it has listed is, "You will go out for a hunt. You will clear the New York outskirts of all humans with cold blood. You will shoot, you will hunt, you will kill, and you will die. There is no rules, no compassion, no mercy, no point in going back. You are the Lord of life and death now, and you will have full control over the lives of worthless human scum." So my response with playing the game, I think it was a little bit, it was dramatic. I wasn't all that offended by it, honestly, because the violence in the game is universal. It's not against any sort of minority, or it's not against women. It's just the whole game is based around violence and, how many different ways can you kill people. The antagonist refers to cops as human shields. He refers to humans as worthless scum. He, has a whole vocabulary of ways he just detests humans. The game was hard for me to play. I don't really have a lot of experience playing video games. I used the controller. It was more intended to be used with the keyboard controls, but I just couldn't get a hang of that. The graphics were good, mechanics were good. I just couldn't really get into it because there's not a whole lot of objectives in the game. You're kind of just running around killing people. They'll give you small objectives like to raid the marketplace, and you have different levels that, technically have different objectives, like you're killing people for a different reason. But at the end of the day, you're still killing people with the same weapons, with the same mechanics. You can execute them when they're kind of dying out, and that'll give you extra points, and it'll give you like a little cut screen of you zooming into a character and, you know, gouging their eye out or slitting their throat. You know, a little bit of extra violence for you. But all in all, I didn't really enjoy the game. I would have been worried if I did enjoy the game. A lot of critics gave it 3s out of 10s, and it got a 44 out of 100 on Metacritic. People just were not that impressed by it. They weren't offended by it. They just, you know, didn't really find it all that fun. You can get a game that's just as offensive and more fun for the same price. So yeah, that was my controversial video game. I hope you enjoyed it.